Eli stood on the hill, looking at the lights of the city far below. The wind carried a faint hum from the highways, but it did not reach the emptiness he felt inside. It had been months since Lyra, the small, glowing alien girl who had wandered into his life, left for her home planet. He remembered the first time she appeared in the desert. She had been frightened, lost, and curious. She looked at him with wide, shining eyes and had said, in perfect English, "You will guide me now, human. I'm your friend for life." At first, he had laughed. He didn't even know how to guide a human friend, let alone an alien. But over the weeks, he had learned. He had shown her how to drink water from a bottle, how to listen to music, how humans worked in small, simple ways. And she had amazed him with her intelligence. She understood things faster than anyone he had ever met. When she had to leave, Eli had felt empty. She had told him she needed to return to her world to learn more about her species, but she had promised to stay in touch. And yet, every message he sent seemed to float away into silence. Eli missed her laughter. He missed the way her eyes glowed when she was excited. He missed how she would try to mimic his human habits, sometimes clumsily, but always with the same curious energy. He wandered through the city streets, passing the familiar cafes they had once visited, the park where they had thrown rocks into the pond, and the small electronics shop where she had been fascinated by wires and circuits. Everything reminded him of her. The more he remembered, the heavier his chest became. He wanted to reconnect, but he didn't know how. His fingers hovered over his communicator. Should he message her again? Should he call her? Or should he wait? Every option seemed to lead to disappointment. That night, he sat under the stars, thinking about the bond they shared. Humans were known for persistence, for never giving up even when the odds were impossible. He realized that hope wasn't just waiting for things to happen. It was about making things happen. The next day, Eli went to the electronics shop. He began building a small device, a communicator that could reach farther than any standard signal. He worked tirelessly, using scraps, wires, and pieces of old technology. Every time he felt discouraged, he remembered Lyra's bright eyes and her words, "You will guide me now, human. I'm your friend for life." Those words became a mantra, reminding him that his human persistence could bridge the distance between them. Weeks passed. He stayed up late into the nights, soldering wires, testing signals, and recalibrating the device. His friends noticed his absence and worry, but Eli barely spoke to anyone. He had a mission, to reach Lyra again, no matter how far she had gone. Evening, just as he was about to give up, a soft glow appeared from the device. A small, flickering image formed a tiny shape that shimmered with the same bright, warm light he remembered. Lyra's face appeared, her eyes wide with surprise. "Eli? You built this? You found me?" she said, her voice trembling with excitement. Eli's heart lifted. "I never stopped trying," he said. "I knew we could reconnect if I just kept going." Lyra's glow grew brighter. "Humans, you never give up, do you?" she asked, almost in awe. "No," Eli replied with a small smile, "especially for friends." They spent hours talking that night, catching up on everything they had missed. Lyra told him about her world, the strange creatures, the floating cities, and the challenges she faced learning her culture. Eli shared his own world, the simple joys and struggles of life on Earth. Even though they were worlds apart, their bond had not weakened Dot by the time the first rays of dawn touched the city. Eli felt lighter than he had in months. He realized that distance could not break hope. It could not break the bond humans could form with one another, or with friends from other worlds. And Lyra's words echoed in his mind, a promise they had both made without knowing it. "You will guide me now, human. I'm your friend for life." Eli knew then that no matter how far apart they were, no matter the obstacles, they would always find a way back to each other. Hope, persistence, and human ingenuity had bridged the distance. And that, he thought with a quiet smile, was what made humans extraordinary. Asterisk after their long night of talking through the communicator, Eli felt a spark of hope that he had not felt in months. But as he watched the tiny image of Lyra flicker and fade at the end of the call, he realized something. Talking was not enough. He wanted to see her again, not through a screen, but in the real world. He wanted to help her, to guide her through challenges, and to be the friend she had trusted him to be. The problem was obvious. Lyra was on a distant planet, far beyond any normal human reach. Space travel was still complicated, expensive, and dangerous. But Eli remembered something very human about humans. They never give up when they have a purpose. He set his jaw and told himself, there must be a way. He began researching everything he could find about interstellar travel. He read reports, old engineering manuals, and even some secret projects that humans had tried in the past. Every page made him more determined. He worked in the small garage behind his apartment, surrounded by glowing screens and scattered tools. Even when the nights grew long and lonely, he remembered Lyra's voice. You will guide me now, human. I'm your friend for life. That simple sentence gave him strength that Eli knew he could not do it alone. Humans were brilliant when they worked together. He contacted old friends, engineers, and even online communities of space enthusiasts. Many laughed at first when he said he wanted to reach an alien world. It's impossible, they said. But some believed him. Some remembered the times when humans had achieved the impossible before, putting people on the moon, building massive space telescopes, and reaching distant planets with robotic explorers. Slowly, a team formed. They designed a plan, a small, fast ship capable of reaching Lyra's planet. It would not be luxurious, but it would be strong, safe, and precise. Eli worked tirelessly, drawing blueprints, running simulations, and testing prototypes. Every time a part failed or a calculation was off, he remembered why he was doing it. He was not just building a ship. He was building a bridge to a friend, a bridge across the stars. Meanwhile, Lyra continued to send messages through the communicator. She described her world, tall, glowing trees, rivers that shimmered like liquid light, and creatures that moved like liquid shadows. She told Eli about the small struggles she faced, how her world expected her to adapt quickly, to learn, to fit in. Sometimes she sounded lonely. Sometimes she sounded frustrated. Eli wished he could be there to encourage her in person, to show her that humans could care and understand even across worlds. One night, Eli sat alone in his garage, staring at the half-finished spacecraft. He felt the weight of doubt pressing down on him. Could he really do this? Could a single human reach a distant alien world? For a moment, the fear made his hands shake. But then he remembered the first time he met Lyra. She had trusted him when she was scared and alone. And he had guided her, even when he didn't know how. If he could do that, he could do this too. He picked up a small notebook and wrote a promise. No matter the distance, I will reach her. I will guide my friend, because humans never give up. That promise felt like a shield against the darkness of doubt. He worked through the night, connecting circuits, testing engines, and adjusting the navigation system. Slowly, the ship began to take shape, a symbol of hope, persistence, and human determination. The day came when the ship was ready for its first test flight. Eli invited his closest friends to watch. Everyone held their breath as he powered the engines. The small spacecraft hummed, lights glowing, and then lifted into the air. It hovered, spun, and then landed safely again. Cheers erupted around him, but Eli felt calm. This was only the first step. The real journey was still ahead. Over the next few weeks, Eli and his team ran more tests. They calculated trajectories, studied Lyra's planet, and figured out how to communicate during the journey. Every success, every small step, reminded him of what humans could do when they had a reason to hope and a reason to care. One evening, after a long day of adjustments, Eli sat under the stars. He imagined Lyra on her planet, perhaps staring at her sky and thinking of him. He whispered, "I'm coming, Lyra. I will guide you, no matter what." The stars seemed to twinkle, as if acknowledging his words. He realized something important. Hope was not passive. Hope required action. Humans could hope, yes, but they could also build, explore, and overcome. Eli smiled at the thought. He was human, and that meant he could take impossible dreams and make them real at the end of the day. Eli returned to the communicator and sent a message to Lyra. "I'm building a way to see you again. It will take time, but I promise you, we will meet soon. You will not be alone." Lyra's response was immediate, glowing bright on the screen. "Eli, you are amazing. I always knew humans were strong and clever. I will wait for you. I will be your friend forever." Eli felt a warmth in his chest. Even though they were separated by the vastness of space, they were connected by trust, hope, and friendship. The distance was still there, but it no longer felt like a wall. It felt like a challenge, one that humans, with their persistence and courage, could overcome. That night, as he watched the stars, Eli whispered to himself, "We will bridge the distance. I will guide you, Lyra, and we will never give up." Eli sat in the cockpit of the small spacecraft, staring at the countless stars ahead. The engines hummed softly, and the navigation screens glowed with faint blue light. Today was the day he would take the first real step toward Lyra. Months of preparation had led to this moment. The ship was sturdy, built with scraps, old technology, and new inventions he and his friends had designed. It was not luxurious, but it was reliable. Every part had been tested, every calculation double-checked. And yet, Eli felt a small knot of fear in his stomach. The distance to Lyra's world was vast, and space was unpredictable. He closed his eyes for a moment and remembered her words. "You will guide me now, human. I'm your friend for life." That memory filled him with courage. If he had helped her before, when she was small and afraid, he could now help her across the stars. He opened his eyes, took a deep breath, and pressed the ignition button. The engines roared, and the spacecraft lifted off the ground. The city below shrank quickly, turning into tiny dots of light. Eli held the controls steady, feeling a mixture of fear and excitement. He thought of Lyra on her distant planet, waiting, trusting him to arrive. That thought gave him strength. Space was not easy. The ship shivered as it passed through asteroid fields, and the navigation system beeped warnings at him when gravitational pulls threatened to push the vessel off course. Each time, Eli adjusted the controls with precision. Humans were not the fastest creatures, and they did not have natural defenses against the dangers of space, but humans were clever. They could think, solve problems, and invent solutions when the unexpected appeared. Hours passed, and Eli felt the loneliness of space pressing on him. He missed seeing Lyra's glowing eyes, hearing her voice in the room with him, laughing at her small mistakes, and watching her wonder at the world. He reached for the communicator, hoping for a sign from her. A small message appeared. "Eli, are you on your way? I am waiting." Her words, simple as they were, lifted his spirits. Eli smiled and spoke aloud, even though she could not hear him. "Yes, Lyra, I am coming. Hold on." As the spacecraft approached the edge of the solar system, Eli faced the first major challenge, a sudden meteor storm. Rocks, some larger than cars, hurtled through space at incredible speed. The ship shuddered as debris struck the shields. His heart raced, but his hands were steady. He remembered all the hours he had spent building, testing, and preparing. Panic would not help. Only focus, ingenuity, and patience could guide him through. Eli maneuvered the ship with precision. He calculated trajectories, adjusted shields, and even rerouted power to the engines to push past faster. Hours felt like minutes as he dodged and weaved through the storm. Finally, after a tense few hours, the last meteor passed, and the ship emerged into calm space again. Eli exhaled, relief washing over him. He leaned back and looked out at the stars. The storm had reminded him something important. Even the vast, unknown dangers of space could be overcome by determination and clever thinking. Humans were not the strongest beings in the universe, but they were persistent. They could face fear and solve impossible problems. After the storm, the journey became quieter. Eli kept a strict schedule, checking the ship's systems, running calculations, and practicing small exercises to keep himself alert. He also sent regular messages to Lyra, telling her about the progress of his journey, about the storms he had faced, and about the stars he was seeing for the first time. Each reply from Lyra was filled with excitement and encouragement. She described her world sky, its shimmering lights, and its strange floating animals. The distance still felt large, but their bond grew stronger with every message. One night, Eli saw a planet through the telescope that glowed faintly in the distance. His heart jumped. Could this be Lyra's home? The data matched her descriptions: floating mountains, glowing rivers, and tall trees that seemed to touch the clouds. He carefully adjusted the ship's path, heading straight toward it as the spacecraft descended. Eli faced another challenge: navigating the planet's thick atmosphere. Storms of wind and strange electrical storms tested the ship's shields. He remembered all the lessons humans had learned about flight on Earth and applied them in space. With patience and careful calculations, he guided the ship safely through the turbulence. Finally, the ship landed on a glowing plain, the light reflecting softly off every surface. Eli opened the hatch and stepped out, feeling a rush of triumph. The air was different, strange but breathable with the help of his suit. And there, not far away, a small glow moved toward him. Lyra ran or floated toward him, her tiny form glowing brighter with excitement. "Eli, you came! You really came!" she said, her voice trembling with joy. Eli laughed, feeling tears in his eyes. "I promised, didn't I?" he said. "I told you I would guide you, and I always keep my promises." They hugged, or rather, she glowed close to him, her small hands on his arms. Eli felt the relief of seeing her in person, of knowing that all the planning, all the nights of work, and all the fear had been worth it. Lyra looked up at him, eyes shining. "Humans, you are incredible. You never give up. You make hope real." Eli smiled and held her hands. "We may not be perfect. We may not be the strongest. But we never stop caring. We never stop trying." For the first time in months, Eli felt truly at peace. The distance had been closed, and their bond was stronger than ever. The galaxy was still vast, full of unknowns, but he had learned something important. Hope, courage, and human determination could overcome even the greatest distances. That night, as they looked up at the alien sky together, Eli realized that the adventure was only beginning. There would be challenges, new worlds to explore, and mysteries to solve, but together, he and Lyra could face anything. And no matter where the stars took them, their promise remained: "You will guide me now, human. I'm your friend for life." Eli stood on the glowing plains of Lyra's home planet, feeling a mix of awe and nervousness. The air shimmered with strange energy, and the ground beneath his boots glowed faintly. The stars in the sky above were unfamiliar, stretching across the horizon in patterns he had never seen. Despite all this, the feeling he could not shake was one of responsibility. He had promised to guide Lyra, and now he was here, thousands of miles from Earth, where nothing was familiar. Lyra floated beside him, her small glow brightening as she observed him. "Eli," she said softly, "I've never been able to show anyone my world like this. You are the first human to step here. It's incredible, but also dangerous." Eli nodded. "I know, but we'll face it together. We always do." The first challenge came quickly. As they explored a nearby forest of luminous trees, the ground shook, and strange creatures, tall, shadowy forms with flickering lights for eyes, appeared. They did not attack immediately, but their presence was intimidating. Eli's heart raced. Humans were small compared to many creatures in the universe, but humans were clever. He had always believed that thinking and creativity could match, or even surpass raw strength. He whispered to Lyra, "Stay calm. Watch their movements. Look for patterns." Lyra nodded, mimicking his careful observation. They noticed that the creatures reacted to light, moving away when bright objects shone near them. Eli quickly removed a small light device from his pack and adjusted its brightness. Slowly, they moved through the forest, using light to guide the creatures away from their path. Lyra watched him, eyes wide. "Humans, you always find a way. Even when everything seems dangerous, you keep hope alive." Eli smiled. "We have to. Hope is what keeps us moving. It's what makes impossible things possible." After several hours, they reached a valley where glowing rivers ran through the land. The rivers pulsed with energy, creating small storms of light and wind. Lyra explained that the currents were unpredictable, sometimes strong enough to sweep away anyone who tried to cross. Eli examined the river carefully. He noticed small patterns in the currents and used rocks and debris to create a temporary bridge. "Watch your step," he told Lyra. "We'll go slowly." One step at a time, they crossed the river carefully. Several times, the currents nearly knocked them off balance, but Eli's patience and ingenuity kept them safe. Once on the other side, Lyra laughed, a bright sound that echoed across the valley. "You did it, Eli. You always find a way." Eli laughed with her. "I didn't do it alone. Humans can't do everything, but when we have friends, even the hardest challenges seem possible." As they continued their journey, Eli realized that the distance he had felt from Lyra before was gone. Being in her world, sharing the challenges, and finding solutions together had made their bond stronger. Distance had only made him more determined. He understood now that hope wasn't just waiting for messages from afar. It was taking action, facing difficulties, and trusting that humans could rise to the occasion. The next challenge came when they reached a steep canyon. The walls were smooth, almost like glass, and the path they needed to climb seemed impossible. Eli examined it carefully. "We need to use tools, not just strength," he said. He dug into his backpack and took out climbing ropes, hooks, and small devices he had built for Earth's mountains. Lyra watched him work, amazed at his determination. "I've never seen a human prepare like this," she said. "You plan for everything, even when it seems impossible." Eli smiled. "Humans learn to adapt. We find solutions. We take hope and turn it into action." Eli woke to the soft glow of Lyra floating above their small camp. The alien sky was dim, with 3 moons casting pale light across the valley. He rubbed his eyes and stretched. Every night on this world had been strange, but he had grown used to its rhythms. Still, a nagging worry lingered in his mind. Even after all their progress, the distance he had once felt had not entirely vanished. He wanted to reconnect fully, not just with words or actions, but with understanding. Lyra floated closer, her glow pulsating gently. "Eli," she said softly, I feel nervous about what lies ahead. This part of my world is dangerous, and I don't know if we can manage it alone." Eli smiled, steadying himself. Humans were not the strongest beings in the universe, but humans had courage and creativity. And courage, paired with hope, could overcome nearly anything. "We will manage," he said firmly. "We face each challenge together, and we find solutions. We always do." They packed up their camp and began the day's journey, moving toward a series of jagged cliffs Lyra called the Silver Teeth. The cliffs were infamous among her people. Strong winds and sudden light storms swept across the peaks, and many creatures lurked in the shadows below. Eli studied the terrain carefully. "Humans have always turned problems into solutions," he said aloud, more to himself than to Lyra. "We adapt, we plan, and we use our minds." Lyra watched him with admiration. "You are remarkable, Eli. I've never seen a being so determined. I feel safe with you." The first test of their journey came quickly. A sudden storm of glowing particles whipped across the cliffs. Eli struggled to maintain balance, holding tightly to the handrails of their portable climbing kit. He looked at Lyra, who floated unsteadily in the turbulent air. "Use the tether lines," he shouted. "Anchor yourself and move slowly." Lyra followed his instructions, her trust in him absolute. Step by step, they navigated the treacherous terrain. Every gust of wind was a challenge, but Eli's careful calculations and quick thinking kept them moving forward. Once they reached a narrow plateau, they encountered a chasm. The gap was wide, and the winds howled, threatening to throw them off. Balance. Eli examined the terrain. Humans had built bridges, ladders, and rope systems for dangerous gaps on Earth. Why not here? Using rope, pulleys, and small metal anchors he had brought with him, Eli created a temporary bridge. "Careful, Lyra. One step at a time," he instructed. Lyra's small hands gripped the rope, and she followed his guidance, trusting his human ingenuity. They crossed the chasm safely. When they reached the other side, Lyra's glow brightened with relief. "Humans, you never stop finding a way." "I thought this gap was impossible to cross," Eli smiled. "Nothing is impossible when you believe in hope and act with determination." Later, as they climbed higher into the cliffs, they heard a distant roar. Pack of alien predators, shimmering in the dim light, blocked their path. Eli felt his pulse quicken. These creatures were large and strong, but humans had always found ways to overcome bigger threats. He looked at the environment. Rocks, narrow paths, and bright lights could be used as tools. "Stay calm, Lyra," he said. "We can use the terrain to guide them away from us." Using clever traps and carefully placed lights, Eli managed to redirect the creatures away from their path. Lyra watched in amazement, her trust in him deepening. "Humans, even against creatures stronger than you never lose hope." Hours later, they reached a glowing forest that marked the boundary of Lyra's people's sacred territory. Eli felt a wave of accomplishment and relief. They had faced the cliffs, the storm, and predators, and they had succeeded. But he also knew that their journey was far from over, and would be more challenges ahead. That evening, as they rested under the glowing canopy of alien trees, Eli looked at Lyra. "Do you know what I realized?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head, curious. "When I felt distant from you," Eli said, slowly, "I thought the gap was too large to close. But distance is only physical. Caring, trust, and hope can overcome any gap. Humans have always believed in reaching out and connecting, even across impossible distances." Lyra glowed softly, her small hands holding his. "I understand now. Even when I felt far away, your presence, your guidance, kept me safe. I always felt connected, even when we were apart. Eli smiled. That's what humans do. We don't give up on those we care about. We act, we create, and we reach across distances to make connections real. As night fell, the cliffs shimmered under alien starlight. Eli and Lyra huddled together, planning their next steps. They would need to navigate deeper into Lyra's world, facing unknown challenges and new dangers. But with trust, courage, and human ingenuity, Eli knew they could overcome anything. For Eli, the sadness of feeling distant from someone he cared about had transformed into action. Every step, every solution, every decision was a way to reconnect, to bridge the distance, and to show that human determination could turn hope into reality. Lyra's voice broke the quiet night. You will guide me now, human. I'm your friend for life. Eli held her hands firmly, feeling the truth of her words. And I always will, Lyra. No matter the obstacles, no matter the distance. We will face everything together. That night, under alien skies, Eli realized the meaning of human strength. It was not just physical or technical. It was hope, courage, ingenuity, and the ability to act when caring mattered most. The bond between him and Lyra was proof that humans could create connections strong enough to overcome any distance and any challenge. Eli and Lyra moved carefully through the glowing forest, the alien trees casting long, soft shadows on this ground. The air shimmered with energy, and the ground pulsed faintly under their feet. Eli felt a strange mix of excitement and worry. Lyra's world was beautiful, but beautiful often meant dangerous. Eli, Lyra whispered, her glow flickering. Nervously, I've never gone beyond this part of the forest. I don't know what lies ahead. Eli reached out and touched her small hand. Then we will find out together, he said. Humans face the unknown all the time. We explore, we build, we learn. And when we care about someone, we never stop trying, no matter how far or strange the path is. Lyra's glow brightened. I trust you, Eli. Even when I am scared, I know you will guide me. As they walked, the forest grew darker. Strange creatures moved in the shadows, their eyes shining faintly. Eli kept close to Lyra, observing the movements carefully. He noticed patterns, how the creatures moved, what made them hesitate, and which paths were safest. Humans were not the strongest species in the universe, but they had something else. Careful observation, patience, and the ability to turn understanding into action. Eli whispered to Lyra, step where I step. Watch the ground. Trust the patterns. Together, they moved through the dark forest. Each step required focus and calm. Several times, they had to pause as creatures blocked the path, but Eli's ingenuity allowed them to move quietly and safely. Around them, hours later, they reached a wide clearing. In the center stood a strange, glowing structure, tall and smooth, with symbols that pulsed faintly in the alien light. Lyra's eyes widened. This is the Trial Monument. No one from my world enters it lightly. It tests strength, courage, and intelligence. I've never dared come close. Eli studied it. Humans had always faced trials, natural disasters, unknown lands, dangerous creatures, and had survived and thrived through problem-solving, courage, and hope. He took a deep breath. Then we face it together, step by step, using our minds, our hearts, and our determination. Lyra nodded, glowing brighter with trust. Yes, together. The first challenge of the monument appeared immediately. A series of floating platforms extended over a glowing chasm. Each platform moved slightly, and if they misstepped, the chasm's energy could knock them down. Eli examined the platforms carefully. He noticed that the movement had a rhythm, a pattern. Humans can solve problems like this, he said aloud. Watch, learn, and moved together. Step by step, Eli and Lyra crossed the floating platforms. He guided her, telling her when to wait and when to step. Lyra followed his instructions, her trust absolute. When they reached the other side, she glowed with relief and excitement. Humans, you always see solutions where others see danger. Eli smiled. We never give up. We face the unknown, even when we feel afraid. The next challenge was a puzzle of light and energy. Symbols on the monument glowed and shifted. The correct combination would open a door deeper into the structure. Eli studied it carefully. He remembered the hours he had spent building devices, solving problems on Earth, and adapting to unknown challenges. He used logic and observation. Moving the symbols in the correct order, the door opened. Lyra's glow brightened with joy. You are clever beyond anything I imagined. Humans never stop thinking, never stop hoping. Eli shrugged. We have to. Hope without action is empty. But when you combine hope with effort, nothing is impossible. Finally, they reached the core of the monument. A small platform floated above a glowing pool. To cross it, they had to balance perfectly. Eli noticed that their movements affected the platform's stability. He guided Lyra carefully, teaching her to adjust her weight and focus on the rhythm of the floating platform. Together, step by step, they crossed safely. When they reached the center, a gentle energy pulse surrounded them. Eli realized that the monument had tested more than just physical skill. It had tested trust, patience, and partnership. Lyra's trust in him and his